Well, welcome everyone. It is my pleasure to present, let's see, let me get my presentation open here, to present the 2021 Wreck Diving Adventure Zoom meeting here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marilou Maglione. I've been diving 40 years as of December of 2020, and 32 of those years I've been going to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I used to go up there from Florida because the diving is so spectacular, and I've been addicted to it for decades. So it is my absolute pleasure to be the trip leader on these 6 3-day weekends that we have planned. And the purpose of today's presentation is to share with you how we run these trips, all the spectacular things you can expect to see, and if you've never been, how we can help you prepare so that you can have an amazing time but stay safe and join us on these fun trips. So we have a few veterans with us. Chris has been going as my dive buddy sidekick for years, and we have a few others who I know have been, and so I hope that they will speak up here and there and share some of their wonderful experiences and maybe some of their tips and tricks as we go through the rest of the presentation. These weekend dates are listed on Dive Connection's website in the travel calendar. So if and you can also view this presentation again once we post the recording. So you can look at your calendars and hopefully plan for 1 or 3 or 6 trips this summer. All right, so where do we dive? So we head to Beaufort, North Carolina. It's near Morehead City, and we come out of the inlet and we head south and sometimes east. Our favorite wrecks are the Carib Sea. That is my absolute favorite. The Youth 352, which is a sub, a German sub. Both of those were sunk in World War II. The Aeolus, which you just saw in the video. There's the Schurz, Papoose, Atlas. Those are some of the common ones. And they are very often in very clear water and warmer water. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of go through what the package includes, and then we'll go into more detail about the diving itself. So you know what you're getting. We have 3-night and 2-night packages for these weekends. 3 nights, 6 dives, and 2 nights, 4 dives. So this package includes your accommodations at the Beaufort Harbor Suites, which is right next to the dive shop. You can walk back and forth to the shop and even down into Beaufort. So it's very convenient and easy to run back if you forgot something, or you just unpack your gear and leave it at the dock, and then going back and forth to carry business is so convenient. We have a wonderful place now in the suites for socialization, safe socialization on the deck, and we can use the grill out at the dock. So nice amenities. What else will you get? Well, I'll help plan your trip so that should we get blown out for a day, we can make a plan B and see some sights, and I'll review what else there is to do down there. You'll have me as an experienced dive leader. I know these wrecks pretty well, and something that I like to offer on my trips are lead dives should anyone new want that. It can be a little intimidating to go on a new wreck out in over 100 feet of water, and These wrecks are considered a little darker, meaning that we are in the Atlantic, so it's not Caribbean diving. And so sometimes having someone show you around the first couple of dives might be helpful. And if you'd like to take advantage of that, that's my pleasure. We provide light refreshments, fruit, etc., and lots of help, camaraderie, and good dive buddies. So that's what's included. What's not included, your transportation and all of your gear. So you please need to have all of your own gear, or you can rent it. You can rent some from Dive Connections or Discovery. Tanks and weights are best rented at Discovery. And I even rent my own now. I have a couple tanks, but sometimes hauling them and paying for the air fills is actually not worth the hassle. So getting them at Discovery is so much easier. They normally provide aluminum 80. So if you prefer other types of tanks like a steel or maybe a 120, they have a very small supply. So let Chip and I know what you might need, and we will try to reserve those for you. If you are going to rent anything, Discovery has a rental form, and it's really convenient if you download that and kind of fill out what you need ahead of time. And during the really busy season when they have classes going simultaneous with the dive trips on the weekends, some of the specialty tanks can get spoken for pretty quickly. So you'll want to let us know what you need as far in advance as possible. All right, a little more about the suites. This is a nice change from a hotel because we have full kitchens. And so if you'd like to bring some food to prepare yourself over a 3-day weekend and not feel like you have to eat out every meal, this is a great option. So, but because it's a suite, it doesn't have 2 queen size beds. It's got 1 queen bed and 1 queen sofa bed. So, if you are rooming with a dive buddy who's not sharing your queen bed, you have to figure out who gets the sofa bed. So we'll let you figure that out, but just so you know, that's how these rooms are set up. If you'd rather stay in your own room as a single, that can be accommodated as well. And just let the shop know, and they'll tell you how much the single supplement is for your weekend. So for meal options, we sometimes dine out, and right now small groups can do that. When we have a full boat, 18 divers, that's a lot to accommodate in a restaurant. So we have been we've been doing some other things like a cookout or people participating in bringing foods to share safely, and we do that on the patio one night. So we kind of play that by ear each trip, and as we go into this summer season with some of the COVID restrictions changing, we'll take each weekend as it comes, and we'll assess the situation and what our meal options are and what restaurants are open, and we'll decide what we want to do each trip. Something that I've added since we've been staying at the Beaufort Suites is a social hour on Saturday or Friday and Saturday. So we'll talk more about that, but it's a really fun place to stay. All right. So a little bit about what you'll need to do to prepare on the trip for the trips. So first, call the shop, make sure the weekend that you want to get in on is open, and sign up. Once you're signed up, then you can expect an email from me about 10 days prior to the trip. And at that point, I'll be monitoring the weather, and I'll provide sea conditions as far as temperature and any news that you need to have. Dive Connections will also send you an email, and in that will be a trip application and release. So please get your paperwork in. This year, I want to stress that really needs to be done a week ahead of time. We are often like a day or two away from the trip, and sometimes people's paperwork isn't in. It would help us tremendously if you could get that paperwork done as far in advance as possible. And to make it easy on you, in my email, I will send you links to all of the paperwork. And so all you have to do is print things out and either email it back to Chip, you can scan it or email it, and you can also then bring a copy with you. Bring a copy to. I think it's down an echo.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. Whoever. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so how much training do you need to go on these trips? Well, this is not technical diving per se. So you don't have to be trained as a technical diver, because this is not penetration wreck diving with decompression procedures. However, it can be a little bit more challenging than regular open water diving in the Caribbean on a wreck in 60, 70 feet of water with consistently good visibility and low current. So the minimum requirements are an advanced open water certification and at least 2 ocean dives. And that's what's required by Discovery. What we recommend, and what they recommend as well, is nitrox certification. If you don't have your nitrox certification, it's an easy class. It's about 2.5 hours online, and then I can help check you off once we get down to Discovery and you do your first time you analyze tanks, and I can help you through that. The reason you really want nitrox is to maximize your bottom time. You're going to invest some time driving, boat ride, etc. So you really want to get the most out of your bottom time, and the nitrox will help you do that. They have one blend, it's 30%, and so they make it easy peasy. And so if you're not nitrox certified, you can call the shop and we'll hook you up. It is most helpful to have some additional specialty training for these dives. So one of the challenges to be aware of is that Atlantic wreck diving with the Gulf Stream currents and weather that can change fairly quickly means that we have to be ready for the unexpected. So some of our folks here that have been on these dive trips a few times can attest that from one dive to the next, even if we stay on the same wreck, can be a totally different dive. The visibility can change rapidly, so can the currents, and the seas can pick up a little bit. So having some experience in running a reel, deploying buoys, navigation on a wreck, that kind of thing, how to plan for decompression sealing should you accidentally stay too long for some reason, if you got into a little trouble, knowing how to deal with some of the challenges that you may face. And so being prepared doesn't mean, it just means that we'll have that peace of mind. So how can you get that preparation? Well, taking specialty courses is the best way. And this is not for a sales pitch for training. I don't work in the capacity of an instructor here. I'm a trip leader on these trips, but I just did want to share with you the options that we have to help get you more prepared And there are some packages that you can take advantage of to get some of the specialties that are most helpful for this type of diving. So there's wreck diving, boat diving, deep diving, and peak performance buoyancy specialties that are probably the most advantageous for this kind of diving. And Dive Connections has put some specialty packages together to make it more economical, and you can do these over time. So it's not like there's a time limit on how quickly you do these. And just FYI, if you didn't know, if you take 5 specialties and do a rescue class, then you can also get your master diver certification. So this will help you in your training progression as well. So because of 2020 being what it was, and also it just being early spring, if you've been out of the water a while and you are thinking of going on these trips, which I assume you are since you're here, some of the common challenges that you may want to think about working on is buoyancy. So I'll speak for myself. COVID added some curves, and with that, I have to adjust my buoyancy a little bit, I'm sure. So things like that to work on, and therefore proper trim, weighting. I also got some new toys. I treated myself to a little bit of new gear. So with new gear, you might need to adjust your trim and the way you organize things. So and if you got a new computer or haven't used your computer in a while, make sure you understand how that works. Rigging for a low profile. Wreck diving rigging is, your gear needs to be rigged a little bit differently than maybe for open water coral reef diving. Understanding gas management. This is a big one. If you are used to diving in 60 feet of water where you're not working hard, and you now move into 100+ foot of diving where you might have a current, your gas management needs to be different. And so we'll want to, and we can help you kind of calculate what that means for you. And then working on navigation. Being out in the middle of the Atlantic on basically a speck in the middle of a sandy bottom poses some challenges. So you do not want to get lost out there. And there's a few different ways to navigate, and there's great ways to practice all of this stuff. So I'll go into a little more detail on how we can do that and help you through that. All right. I'm going to stop for just a second. Does anyone have any questions at this point? I can't see the chat at the moment. Let's see. Let me bring that up. Huh. Okay. No.
Actually, I have a question about the roommates at the hotel. So do we just choose a roommate? Or, I mean, I'm a little confused on how that works. I signed up, and I'm signed up with some other people I know, but I don't know if we're roommates or what. I'm a little confused.
Okay. Question. So what we try to do is pair people who want to room together. If you know that there's someone going on the trip, the same trip you signed up for, and you would like to be roommates, and then let us know and we'll put you together. Otherwise, if we have 2 single females or 2 single males, we will put you together and let you know who you're rooming with. And if there is a concern about that, then you have to please tell us, and we'll see what we can do. But
Okay.
that's it. Okay. Any other questions at this point?
Hi, do you know the cost of the single supplements?
Chip, I'm going to defer to you. Can you answer that?
I'm going to have to double check that and get back here, and I'll make a note and get it out to everybody. They changed the room rates on us, and it's going to be attended, of course, well as to what nights you're staying, if you're staying all 3 nights or 4 nights or however you want to do it. But I will get back with you specifically on your schedule and what the single supplement would be.
Okay. Any other questions at the moment? All right, so moving on. So preparation. So again, this is warm water diving, which makes it so nice. So in May, you can expect low 70s, maybe at the bottom, 70, 69 at probably the coolest. So low 70s. What that means is, for many, that is a 3 mil with a vest and a hood or a beanie. Some people are more comfortable in the 70s with a 5 mil. If you're really, really super cold nature, a 5 mil and a vest. I like the layer option, okay? Very, very few people wear a 7 mil or a dry suit at this time of year. Now, in January and February, a 7 mil and a dry suit is the way you dive out there. But beginning in May, as the Gulf Stream waters are much warmer and bathing these wrecks, we're fine with much lighter exposure suits. In July through September, it actually gets really warm. A lot of people are diving just skins or shorties. So if you bring a few things that you can mix and match, that's the best. So, you know, when you start on a Friday, you might just be wearing your 3 mil and a little hood. But if you tend to get chilled, maybe by Sunday you want to add your vest or something like that. So mix and match. And when you get the emails from me prior to the trip, I'll be telling you what the current water temperatures are. Sun protection. Again, we're out in a boat. With a cover, however, if you want to get on the deck and relax and soak up some rays, please wear some sunscreen. I've seen some people really get roasted faster than they expected. So bring some sunscreen, hat, shades, towel, and reef safe sunscreen is highly recommended. We just had a great Sea Devil presentation on reef safe sunscreen, and there are corals and soft invertebrates out on these wrecks and ledges, and so they would appreciate it as well. All right, and seasickness. This is something that tends to cause some people a little bit of anxiety. If you don't know if you get seasick, I would suggest you prepare just in case. So once you're sick, it's hard to salvage that day. You can't really take much once you're feeling awful and feel, you know, normal again that day while you're still on the boat. There's just no truly magic pill for that. So what a lot of folks do is start medicating the night before, and scopolamine patches are the most popular for that. If you're not sure, please talk to your doctor and talk to some of your, call me, text me, there are some tricks. There are bands. There are other types of more natural patches that in place of scopolamine. Excuse me. But whatever you choose to do, again, if you're in doubt, just expect that it might be a problem for you, and it's better to be prepared. And the side effects of the seasickness medication is usually extremely minor and not worth not taking because being sick can ruin your day. Okay. So I'm going to go through some other highlights of preparation and things to be aware of, to work on before these dives, based on some of what I've observed over the years, especially the last few and leading trips, and seeing what people may tend to have challenges with the most. And the reason that people might have these challenges isn't because they're bad divers. It's just that diving out in these conditions is sometimes a little different than what they're used to. Even if you've logged hundreds of dives in many of the common dive locations like Bonaire, other Caribbean locations, this type of diving is a little bit different, and you may not expect some of these challenges. So that's why we're doing this. So knowing your BC. Getting into the water here, you'll be jumping off of a little higher platform. You'll be jumping off the side of the boat about 6 feet up, and you'll want to get down as quickly as you can and not bounce around at the surface. So knowing your BC well enough that you can get down quickly is important. Wading is very, very important. As you go deeper, if you are overweighted, it will make your deep dive miserable. So proper weight and trim is really, really important here. And it will help you navigate very safely around these wrecks and adjust your buoyancy much more easily if you are not overweighted. It will also help you conserve gas, which you want to do because you want to maximize your bottom time. You also want to be weighted appropriately so that when you return to the surface and you are doing your safety stop, that you can rest there comfortably and hover there and enjoy a very peaceful end to your dive. You may be diving with different size tanks and different exposure suits than what you're normally used to. So you'd have to adjust for that. So for example, if you're used to diving with an aluminum 80, but you think you're going to need more gas than that on these deeper wrecks, compensating for that different cylinder is something you'll need to kind of figure out, and we can help you do that. All right, accessories. So you want to rig your gear appropriately for these kinds of dives. Some people dive doubles, some people bring pony bottles. Those are not required. Those are certainly helpful for those who are trained to do that. Again, not required, but what I would caution everyone to do is to really look at your rigging and dive low profile. That means really going through your gear carefully and configuring it so that you don't look like a Christmas tree or an octopus. There are many ways to streamline your gear, and this is for your safety. For example, when you take that giant stride into the water, you don't want anything dangling to get snagged and hooked and ruin your entry. You also don't want to get caught on anything as you navigate around the wrecks. You'll also need to carry some extra gear with you that you may not normally carry on a shallow reef dive. So you'll want a surface marker buoy or a delayed surface marker buoy, and you can choose one or both to carry. And so you've got to decide, where do you put those so you can get to it when you need it, but that it won't be in your way. You'll need at least a spool for your SMB or DSMB. And if you are going to do some navigation with a reel as well. I carry an SMB, a DSMB, a spool, and a reel. And it sounds like a lot, but there's a way to do it. And there's a way to do it low profile and keep it where you need it and easily accessible. So in addition, a line cutter. These are fairly popular fishing sites as well. So you're going to see fishing line. And if you get a little bit tangled around your ankle, etc., you want a way to cut that off. Another accessory, not required, but it can come in handy, and I've used mine a few times over the years, is a John line. And this is just a short line that is attached to you and has a hook on one end to attach to the anchor line, for example. So if you're in a current, it's helpful to have that extra line to keep yourself attached to the anchor line. This is also very handy for your safety stop and allows you to be hands-free. And if you have a camera, like I often carry, then if I'm in a current with a camera, that's a nice extra piece of equipment to have. All right. Computers. There are so many options here, and there is no rule as far as no real recommendations here, other than if you're going to dive nitrox, you need a nitrox computer. But the key is knowing your computer and how to use it. There's no way I could count how many times I have been asked by people to help them set their computer or help them understand what their computer's telling them. And when we're out with no internet connection, it's not a good time to try to figure that out. So understand how your computer works, how to set it, and where to look for various things. So you need to know what your NDL is at a glance. How much more time do you have? Do you have a ceiling? And if so, what is your required ceiling, or what is your required stop depth? For how long? And when is it safe for you to exit the water? So if you have questions about how to use your computer, I know there's folks at the shop that can help you out. There's a few really savvy folks who can do that. I have some expertise in a couple of models, but please don't rely on me to help you figure out all of your computers. So enough on that. All right, gas management. Rule of thirds. This is what we try to do to start. It's just a good rule to start, which means a third of your air down and around, down, and a third of your air out and around the wreck, and a third back up to begin your ascent. So right size your cylinder and know what you think your bottom time should be. Another important aspect of gas management, if you're coming as a solo diver and you're going to be buddied up, have a talk with your potential buddy and kind of get a feel for, is your buddy the right pair for you? Because we don't want you to feel frustrated if you have plenty of air left and your buddy just ran out, with potentially 15 minutes left for you to dive. So we try to pair people up with somebody who's comparable in their air consumption and their diving style. So I'd be happy to help you with that, so that everybody can enjoy their buddy time together and not force somebody to come up too soon. All right. As I said earlier, what we are trying to do is create training opportunities for people to try out gear configurations, get a little help. And so here's a few things that you can join us for in order to do that. We have Bubbles and Brews, one more coming up in May where we jump in the pool. So if you want to try some different gear configurations or play with a buoy or a reel, that's a good time to do it. And then we have diver days at Lake Phoenix. These are the dates. And that's a good place to get with an instructor and practice some things. That's where you can do some specialty classes, or you can get with a buddy and practice some things on your own. Something we started last year is that I will be doing prep clinics there where I'll go over some rigging options, review how to use a reel, a buoy, how to deploy a buoy, and show you some things that they sometimes sound easier than they are. And if you haven't ever done it, or if you haven't done it in a while, I'll help you out there. And then, of course, all the specialty classes that we talked about. There are instructors at the diver days that can do some of these skill reviews as part of specialty classes and go into a lot more detail. All right, I'm going to stop here before I go into what to expect on the boat and during the dives. Any questions at this point?
One quick question. So do we dive the very first day? So let's say August 27th, we'll be diving August 27th, or we won't dive till August 28th?
Good question. So the night we arrive, we don't dive that day we arrive. So the first night, most people are rolling in after work, and we get there between 4 and 9 p.m. So we will meet at the harbor at the Beaufort Suites at about 9:15 the first night, and because the dive shop closes at 9 and a lot of people come after work, and it's a 5-hour drive from Charlottesville area. So we'll gather and on the first night, and then we dive the very next morning.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So pre-dive preparation. On the night you arrive, the night you drive down, check into Discovery. You'll hand over your C card. You can get your tanks analyzed and do all that before 9 p.m. The shop opens at 6 a.m. in the morning, but it's going to be busy most mornings. And so if you get there and do all of that the night before, then all you have to do is crawl out of bed, get your coffee, and carry your gear down to the boat. Once we get to the boat, you'll load your gear, you'll set up your tank, get all of your gear connected, checked out, and your extra bag, etc., stowed. You put your dry stuff down below. Double, triple check. Make sure you're not forgetting anything. There's no extra stuff on board. I often bring some spare things in a big save a dive kit kind of thing, but there's very limited access to extra stuff. So if you forget something, it could mean you don't dive that day. Because there's a lot of people on deck with 2 tanks and a lot of bulky gear, all your bags need to fit under the seat. So don't bring big gear boxes. Bring a bag like a little roller bag or a small bag that you can put under the seat in the boat. And then we get a briefing, and then we settle in for a nice ride. It's about an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on where we go. We get a 30-minute notification prior to anchoring up, so that then we can get our suits on, our exposure suits on, and get camera gear ready at the last minute, reset computers should you need to, etc. Once I know which wreck we're going to, and we will have say in that, especially on the trips where we've booked the whole boat. So weather permitting, we'll get to decide where we go. But it's always at the captain's discretion based on that day's actual weather. So we can plan the night before and say, pick which wrecks we want, but depending on what the captain thinks when we get out there, that is subject to change. However, once we know where we're going, I'll give you a detailed briefing, and we can talk then about, we can finalize our buddy pairs and make sure everybody's ready. Then the captain will also do a briefing. His briefing is much more about how to run the dive, entering, exiting, etc. If anyone needs any help with anything, like a extra hand up the ladder, etc., just let us know, because they've been very good about that, making sure that people with bad knees like me get a little extra boost, etc. So don't be shy, let me know, and we'll make sure that all of that's discussed, and so we can make your experience really safe and easy. All right, a typical day on the water. This is the boat, 65 foot. It's powered by twin diesel, so there are some diesel fumes, but that's something that shouldn't bother you unless you're sitting right at the stern there. She has fins on ladders, which is nice, very nice. So we'll show you how to get on those ladders, but a lot easier than some boats where you have to take your fins off in the water and hand those up first. There's always 2 extra crew members in addition to the captain. They are also captains, so we're in very good hands out there. On a Friday or a Monday, we'll cast off at about 7:45. On Saturday and Sunday, we leave the dock at 6:45. So if you're not a super early morning person, the Friday or the Monday is a little bit easier. But on board, you can take a nap. So you can get there, get your gear rigged, and then settle in for a nice long nap. And there's a couple places to do that, up on the deck, the sun deck, or down below on the bench seats, which are nicely padded. So there's usually plenty of room for napping spots. We are in the open ocean with no cell signal. So if you do need to communicate with somebody, do that before we cast off or shortly after, because once we get out of the channel, your cell signal will die. And we'll be doing 2 tanks. Depths are between 100 and 130 feet. So there is one wreck that's a little bit shallower. It's the Carib Sea, my favorite, and that's about 87 or 90 feet. But the average is 1 to 130. All right, typical day underwater. So once you do that, that giant stride off the side, so we're looking at this Carolina rig here, which is on the port side. It is lines that are rigged so that you have a safety bar at 15 feet. And then from there, it leads you down to the anchor line. And the anchor line leads you to the wreck. So what they will do is guarantee us that if you follow that anchor line all the way down to the bottom, there will be a wreck at the other end. If you choose not to follow the anchor line down, you may end up in a sandy patch searching around for a while, and then we may have to come find you after you get back to the surface, because it can be very challenging if you don't follow the anchor line down. Now, once you follow that anchor line down, you will have a lovely wreck dive, and then you can follow the anchor line back up to the boat. So these are a couple pictures that I've taken underwater on last, I think, July and August, or excuse me, under the Outrageous 5. So you can see the fins on ladders in the one picture. There's a couple people going on up, and you can see the hang bar. That other thing that looks like a line hanging down is actually an emergency regulator. So should you find yourself unplanned, low on air, you can use that. Don't count that into your safety stop plan. That is only for emergencies. All right. So after our wonderful day of diving, we get back to the dock, usually about 3:30. We unload, rinse, and then on Saturday evening, or Friday and Saturday, we'll have some time to have a social hour. We usually gather on the deck, bring some beverages and hang out for a bit and chat. And then we'll talk about where we're going to eat dinner and where we might like to dive the next day. And if we do a cookout at the suites, we can share in the, I guess, putting all the food stuff together and divide and conquer kind of thing. And then at some point that evening, if you're diving the next day, just get back to the shop before 9 o'clock and analyze cylinders if you're diving nitrox, and then you can enjoy the rest of the evening. So that's a typical diving day. Now and then we do get blown out. So the wind can pick up unexpectedly, and it may be that we're already on board and we're heading out of the channel, and we just decide, you know, it's a little too rough. So plan B. There's a lot of things to do down there, and if you haven't spent much time or any time in Beaufort, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised by how much there is to do. The aquarium's always fun. There's the Maritime Museum, Cape Lookout Lighthouse and Seashore. Even on a windy day, we can get out to Cape Lookout, and it's a lovely beach, great to walk, go shelling, and visit the lighthouse. There's a couple of reserves and refuges where there's wild horses that you can go and visit, walking trails there. There's the historic burial ground with a lot of history and tour guides that will take you through there. You can rent bikes and take guided tours on a trolley or by bike. There's other private water tour companies that will take you to some of the little beaches and islands. And Beaufort itself is just beautiful. The picture at the bottom there is actually Beaufort in the main street. And so there's shops and dining, and Moorhead City's not far away, and there's more shopping and dining there too. So we've, last year was the first year we started running all of these trips as 3-day weekends, and we got out diving every weekend, but there were a couple of days that we couldn't dive, and so we had some fun things here to do. We went out to Cape Lookout one day with a large group. We took the ferry, and it was a whole lot of fun. So I don't think you'll be disappointed if you don't get to dive one day out of your 3. Okay, so I think that is my last slide. And if you have questions, comments, anybody want to share a
Marilou,
story? Yeah.
The question was asked about hunting lobsters and also spearing on not the shark wrecks.
Okay, yes. So you can, if during the season. So for example, if flounder are in season, you are welcome to spear flounder and bring them up. They even provide spear guns on board. So you are welcome to do that kind of thing. Something I love to do is collect shark's teeth and shells, and so bring a goodie bag if you're interested in that kind of thing. So yes, and I'm so glad that the person who asked the question knows that you shouldn't be spearfishing on the wrecks that are covered up in sharks, because even though the sand tiger shark is quite a docile shark when it comes to people, they eat fish and they'll gladly take your fish, and so got to use some judgment as far as what you're collecting and how you're collecting it down there.
How about the wreck of the Normania?
The what?
The Normania wreck?
Yes.
Called the lobster wreck, okay.
So that is one that we don't get to very often. Let's see, I'll go back to the beginning. Oops. So that is actually, I think, off of my chart here. So I've only been to that a couple of times. And now if you have some requests, and especially if we have booked the whole boat, we can see if we can get to those. So can I ask, since I'm not seeing the chat, is that of particular interest to?
Yeah, hi, Bob. Hi, and I was the one who asked Chip the question,
Okay.
and it's a pretty cool wreck. From what I remember, it's been years ago. It's pretty far out, but there was like 9 and 10 pound lobsters. We pulled a few off. If it's still the same, lobster season is year round up there with a limit of 2. I'd have to check. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's a
Well,
pretty cool wreck.
all right. So Bob, if you sign up for a trip and that's of interest to you, then what I'll do is I'll reach out to Discovery and we'll talk to them about what those options are. Now, there is also another boat that may be able to go out there too that works for Discovery, and you can maybe even add on a day and go out. We can help you with that as well if all you want to do is hunt for the day.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'd like to ask a couple of my dive buddies who are on here that have been on these trips if they want to share any thoughts or stories.
I have a couple thoughts here.
Okay,
Just
Chris.
remember, don't touch the fish. No, I'm serious. There are people reach out and try to touch things, and that's how they end up getting hurt.
Well, there's lots of fish to touch, and the sharks will come right up close to you. So yeah, we shouldn't be touching anything anywhere. We shouldn't be touching coral. We shouldn't be touching anything there. So thanks for that tip. Although I had a wonderfully weird experience last year, and Chip was there to witness it. I came up with like 6 little baby octopus crawling all over me. I don't know why, but I was like the octopus magnet that weekend. And I felt bad because a couple of them died, and I tried really hard to bring them back down. But after the surface interval, even though I put them in water, they didn't make it. But so I didn't collect them. They just latched onto me. So that was a fun, weird experience.
They were kind of cute, though.
They were. They were.
Did you get any pictures of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. I try to take pictures of everybody in the group underwater, and then I will post the pictures that I take in a Google folder for you to get to after the trip. So hopefully that's a nice little bonus too, because sometimes it's nice to have some pictures of you doing something like this. And so I try to capture at least one of everybody during the weekend.
Okay, so just to be clear, we arrive Thursday evening and then we start diving Friday, Saturday, we check out Sunday, but we dive Sunday also. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. So when we on Sunday morning, you check out of your room. And the easiest way to do it is just to put all your personal gear in your car. And then after the diving is over, you can load your rinsed gear in your car and you're ready to go. Now, I like to shower before I get in the car and ride 5 hours home. And so they have an outdoor shower, or if somebody that you know is staying the extra night, you can use their shower. But that's how I usually do it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mary Lou, this is Carolyn, and if you're interested, I could post the presentation that you and I did for the center in the
Sure.
chat. If it was about the trip, and it has a little history, and be happy to do that.
That would be great. So do you want to say anything else to as
a person diving? Yeah. So this was a big deal for me. I never thought I'd do it. Mary Lou's absolutely right. I did a deep and a wreck diving before. I made sure I had a really strong buddy because I knew I needed that. The weather was great. I did get seasick the first day. I used my scopolamine the second day. Lesson learned. It was like nothing I've ever seen. It was like being in a National Geographic film. And I thought, okay, one and done. I did that bucket list. And then Mary Lou said, hey, you want to do it again? Yep. So, yeah, it was great.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so I'll echo what Carolyn said, because I was on the same trip, and it was pretty spectacular when we pulled up to the first dive site, and a whole pod of spotted dolphin were swimming alongside of the boat. So it was amazing.
So I tell people that these dives can be like National Geographic moments, and you know, unless you've experienced it, I get the, you know, sometimes I get the eye rolls like, yeah, you know, it's going to be good, but it can't be that good. So I think there's probably a few of you out there that can attest that you have seen some pretty spectacular things on these trips. Who wants to share?
I've been diving these wrecks since shortly after I started diving. And this is the second dive company we've dove with, and all of them have been great dives. I think more recently the ocean's been calmer than it was when I first started, or I'm just more used to it. I don't know. But I keep coming back year after year after year, diving, you know, as many times as I can get in, you know, with my calendar, and I'll keep coming back because it's just a lot of fun, a lot of good diving. And the area down there has so many things to see and do if you don't want to dive. And I like the Maritime Museum and the library because of all the woodworking. It's just a beautiful place to sit and relax as well. So
Thank you.
I'll have to see what I can do this year.
Thank you. So I think one of the most spectacular things you're going to see, though, if you come on any of these trips, is bait balls and sand tiger sharks. And it's not something you're going to see on Caribbean reef diving, which I absolutely love too. So I'm not downing that at all. But this environment is unique, and swimming through enormous bait balls that are just shifting and swirling, and and then having them part while a large majestic shark just cruises through right over your head, and you're looking up and it's silhouetted by the sun. I mean, it's spectacular, and it's something that you may have seen on TV, but you'll get to experience some of those special moments out on these dives.
I'll just make note that Carolyn has posted that link in the chat box. So if you open up your chat box, you can grab that link for that video and save it off somewhere.
So that link is to a presentation that Carolyn put together after her trip, and she shared all of the excitement and pictures, etc. And I helped a little bit with it. So hopefully you will enjoy it if you choose to watch it. Any other questions? Okay, well, I hope that I'll see you out there. And if I can be of any help, if I can answer any questions, you can reach me by text, by email, through Dive Connections, reach out to Chip as well. And hopefully we'll do some diving together this season.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.